Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. This is Pamela Tate Roger, and I am a gold consultant from the San Francisco Bay Area. We are continuing on with our um, topic that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, which is insurance, travel insurance. And so we're going to address coronavirus today and really pair in. Last week, we talked about travel guard insurance, and this week we were doing a comparison and kind of looking at policies through Allianz, and we're going to talk about that as well as the updates that we've received from some of our vendors regarding coronavirus. So this will be interactive. You can open your line and ask questions. When I ask if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. But I am going to go on and get us started. Can everyone see my shared screen, or have I shared it yet?
No, I can see it.
You can see it. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. How's everybody doing this Monday evening?
Great. How are you?
I am doing well. Seems like I'm constantly running and I'm a little thrown off with our lovely time change. So I'm recognizing I have some East Coasters on the call. So thank you, Natasha, for being on. And I'm not sure who else is on East Coast time, but that's my AP. So I know that it's late there. So I want to get us started. I usually try and do this within a half an hour. And I apologize. Last week's video is not up. It is recorded. I was having problems putting it onto YouTube, but I promise I will get it on and uploaded along with this one. Let me double check and make sure this is recording. Because the other day it didn't record and I had to re-record. And I do see the record light. Awesome. All right, let's get started. So we talked about the difference with travel guards, basic, their standard, and their premier, and then of course their annual policy. So we're going to look at single trip policies here through Allianz as well, and then we will look at annual policies. And so we're going to look at prime trips, we're going to look at a basic trip, and then the premier package. And it is going to not look as neat as it did with the travel guard because I couldn't find a really good printout and was going to cut and paste, but it just didn't feel like it was going to work. So we're going to use their materials. So with a prime trip, it covers some pretty basic things, and we are going to kind of like scroll and look at that. And so they have basic things that have trip cancellation up to $100,000. It reimburses you for your prepaid and non-refundable expenses if you have to cancel a trip due to a covered reason. So let's talk a little bit about covered reasons, which we found out last week. The things that sometimes we believe should be covered are not covered, which has caused quite a bit of panic this week with the coronavirus 19. As we know, coronavirus is not a brand new virus. This is a new strand of the virus. And because it is a new strand of the virus, it currently was not written into the policies as an epidemic or as a pandemic. It was just some new type of virus that didn't actually have coverage written into the language of our insurance policies. So we've been very fortunate that a lot of companies or vendors have been adapting. And I'm going to go in here and I'm hearing a lot of sound. So I'm going to ask if you can keep your volume on mute until I ask for questions, just so it doesn't mess up the recording and so that everybody can hear. And what we discovered is because it wasn't covered and language wasn't included into our travel guard policies, as well as Allianz and any other vendors who had policies, because this was an unheard of disease until January the 24th. It wasn't covered under the insurance carriers, even if you bought travel protection. So this week, some of the great things that have happened are because, the revolt basically with people going, I bought insurance and I expect to get some of my money back, or I expect this to be covered. Norwegian is giving 100% credit for anyone who has a trip planned with them between now and July 31st, 2020. They will get 100% of anything that they've purchased for that trip will be forwarded as a credit to be used within the next calendar year. I believe that you have to use it by December 31st, 2021. The same thing applies to Princess Cruises. Carnival is also doing the same thing. United Airlines is giving people credit, as well as Southwestern Airlines. And so these are our big carriers. And so it's great to know that they are accommodating this. The insurance carriers for travel insurance are also adapting and trying to find ways around the language, but really encouraging you to meet with your vendors first and see, since they are the first line of defense. They are the people you actually booked with. If they will not accommodate, then they're trying things like trip interruption, which is our next thing that's listed here. Your trip interruption can be up to $150,000. It does, however, state that you have to have started the trip. So we do know people who are currently in transit and are not able to complete their trip due to cancellations of flights, due to current status of ships, where people haven't been able to get back onto certain ships. They get trip interruption and they're covered. And so this particular policy has up to $150 per insured person, which is awesome. This particular policy also has emergency medical, and that is $25,000 per injured person. The benefit is for losses due to covered medical and dental emergencies that occur during your trip. Now, there's a $750 maximum for all covered dental expenses. So if your dental went above that, you would be responsible for those fees. This one I really love, the emergency medical transport. And I know people look at that and go, good Lord, that's a large amount of money. That is the benefit per insured. And let me tell you a little bit about that. Now, this benefit is for medically necessary transportation to the nearest hospital or appropriate facility following a covered illness or injury. And people look at this and just go, that's a lot of money. I want you to think about your local hospital bills and how much you spend when you're at the hospital. Now, think about when you take an ambulance in the United States, it's kind of costly. Well, let's just say you're out in the Greek Isles and you have to get from one island to another island to get to the main hospital. That might require someone driving you on the road. Of course, you have to have medical staff who's going with you. Then they're going to take you to a catamaran. You're going to get on that boat and you're going to go with your medical staff. And from there, you're going to go back on the road when you get back on land to get to the actual hospital. So now they're not just transporting you, they're doing what's medically necessary to transport you. That might require 4 people to go with you, literally. A nurse, an EMT, the driver for your ambulance that might have driven the car onto the catamaran to get you over to the next destination. Or in some cases, you might not be well enough to go on sea and they might have to fly you. So you might go to an airport and hop on that 30-minute flight, even thinking in terms of going from one island to the other island in Hawaii. You might have to hop on a flight to get to the next destination in order to get medical treatment. So $500,000 is really not a lot of money. And I have a live example. One of my friends works for a pharmaceutical company that was purchased by a company in Switzerland. And so she has to go there at least twice a month, every month, for her job. And she went skiing in the Alps, and unfortunately had a ski accident and had to be extradited back home because she couldn't stay in Switzerland and work. So she had to be extradited home. And that trip cost $30,000 for her to go back from Roche in Switzerland to get back to South San Francisco to her office at Genentech. This is a real story. So hearing $500,000 for medical transportation seems like a lot of money, but it depends on your illness and the nature of what needs to be done in order for you to be transported. It can be very costly. So this is a great benefit. Now we'll talk about baggage loss and damages. This is covered for $1,000 per insured. It covers your loss, it covers damage, and it covers theft of your baggage or personal effects. Now, while we look at that, most of us know when we travel, depending on where you're going, $1,000 is really not a lot. If you're going for a wedding, you might be carrying your bridesmaid's dress and your shoes and the jewelry, and then whatever you're wearing for the weekend. It is a benefit, however, and of course, when something is lost or stolen, we take what we can get, but you also do have recourse to try and recoup your money directly from your airline carrier. Now we'll talk about baggage delays. You get up to $300 for a baggage delay, and there are different categories for this, and I'm sure it will pop up in the other two policies. Now this one says it reimburses the reasonable additional purchases of essential items during your trip if your baggage is delayed by 12 hours or more. So it says you're required to keep your receipts for those emergency purchases. So what kind of emergency purchases would you need in 12 hours? That would be your basic toiletries, comb, brush, toothbrush. You might need to get hot curlers if you're a woman. You want deodorant. You want, if all of your clothes are gone, you'd want at least an outfit for the day until tomorrow. And you'd want to make sure you have those things. Now it says you may opt to receive fixed inconvenient payment of $100 after a covered bag delay with no receipts required. So somebody might say, hey, I'll just take $100. That way I can just go in and get my immediate essentials. Maybe you carried on a bag that had a couple of outfits or some additional shoes or something, but most people would opt to get the $300 in the baggage delay. But this benefit, again, we need to remember, is per insured. So that means if you and your husband's luggage were together, your items were together, and the bag came up missing, say you had a 60-pound bag, and the bag was missing, and now neither one of you have what you need, per insured, it will cover $300 per person, or either that $100 immediate, no receipts required, that they would pay out. Now we're going to look at travel delays. There are lots of travel delays currently going on, as we know, with the coronavirus and people trying to get from one destination to the other. It has a $200 daily limit in this policy, a total maximum of $800. It reimburses $200 a day per person for additional travel or lost prepaid expenses if your trip is delayed. Now, a lost prepaid expense would be, suppose you were supposed to check into your hotel today, but because of a delay, you're now not going to check in until tomorrow. Well, you've just paid for a hotel night that you're not even going to be able to stay in. You can be reimbursed for that. Or if you had a travel delay with your flight and it costs $250 for you to get onto a different flight, they will reimburse you $200. You would be at a loss for $50, or else you would have to just wait in order to fly out. And of course, you would incur the cost for the hotel room night that you lost, but they would reimburse you for that $200. It's $200 a day. Now, you may opt to receive a fixed inconvenience payment of $100 a day after a covered travel delay with no receipts, meaning you just want them to pay you now, like, hey, we don't have any place to stay. Can you pay me out $100 so I can find a hotel to stay in tonight? That could work because, again, it's per insured. So if it's you and your husband and your child, that's going to be $300 they're going to pay out immediately. You should be able to find a $300 hotel room for one night while you're waiting to continue on with your trip. Next, we're going to talk about SMART benefits. Now, this is $100 per person. This is per day up to a maximum with no receipts limit. Now, with SMART benefits, you can opt to receive fixed inconvenience payment of $100 per person per day. Now, this is for covered travel delays or for baggage delays, and that's what we were talking about. No receipts are required. They're just going to pay you out, and that way you have some cash on hand. You would call the Allianz Global Assistance, and they will help you, and you can submit your flight itinerary online, and they will just pay you out. Some people, are just like, this is ruining my vacation, and, I'm going to wait, and I'm going to wait it out because it's $200 a day, and we have a place to stay tonight, but I don't think it's fair for me to have to pay for the Hyatt in Mexico, and we didn't even get to go on that first night. I want all my money back. So they will opt not to use the SMART benefits. Now, let's talk about change fee coverage. This is one of the most common things that we see when people either miss a flight or if there's some type of a delay of flight, and it can mess you up. It can mess you up really bad with connecting flights or getting to your next destination. Now, this benefit provides reimbursement for fees to change the dates on your airline or rail ticket for a covered reason, i.e., as I just mentioned, a delay with the flight, or for some reason you missed a flight or a connection. So that is $500 per insured person. Now we talk about our loyalty program redeposit fee coverage. Now this provides reimbursement for frequent flyer mile redeposit fees. So you missed your flight and you missed out on some points, and you can use your points to reschedule, but why should you do that? Because you have the benefit of a loyalty program redeposit. They're going to allow them to put those fees back into your mileage depository because you didn't use them. And it's not fair that because you missed a flight due to someone else's issue that, you would lose that benefit. And so they do have this in that coverage where it'll go back up to $500 for a redeposit fee. There's a 24-hour hotline that's included. Most companies do have that. You don't travel alone. They have multilingual assistance, and the team is available 24 hours a day. They'll help you cover most travel emergencies. They'll help you find local medical, legal professionals if something happens where you get stuck and you can't get out. Notifying embassies. They are really, really amazing. They'll arrange to send a message to your home. They'll help you rebook your flights and or hotel arrangements. They'll help with misconnections, lost or stolen travel documents. They will, even if you have someone and you're on a trip and you have a death in your family and need to return home, they will make sure that they will get you on the quickest flight or most direct route to get back to your loved ones. And so we really, really appreciate 24-hour hotline assistance that most travel companies that sell protection provide. Our next item is concierge service. Now, this, of course, is included. It provides personalized information about your destination. It'll help you with obtaining restaurant reservations or tea times or ticket events and let you know when museums are open or closed. And so that is included in this particular policy. Rental car damage protection, it has an upgrade, meaning this is not a standard item in this policy, but you can upgrade this. So don't pay any more for your rental car at the counter because you can protect yourself for $9 a day with primary collision and loss damage coverage for physical damage to a rental car. Don't go on a vacation and just assume that you're going to be covered with your current car rental insurance, particularly if you are traveling out of the country. If you think that you're covered, you need to contact your carrier and ask them that question before you rent a car in another country, and only to find out that you did not have coverage when you could have just paid $9 a day, or you could have asked for a specific rider to be addended onto your own policy. Let's see, we have required to work. And so this is an optional upgrade as well, meaning it is not standard in your policy, but you can pay for an upgrade for it. Don't let your work derail your vacation. So you can add required to work to get trip cancellation and interruption coverage for work-related emergencies. Like say you planned your vacation a year ago and it's time for you to go in a month or so, and you just found out that your assistant quit and the CEO has retired and you are the next person in line. And unfortunately, this is no longer the time for you to take a vacation. That's not generally a valid reason not to go, unless you have the coverage that's called cancel for any reason coverage, which is covered in the travel guard policy. This is the Allianz version of that, the required to work. Make sure that you find out about this, because if you are an executive or you have to bid for time off from your work, you definitely want to have this type of coverage available just in case something shifts and you can't go when you think you're going to be able to go, right? So you want to make sure you would actually contract and add that optional service. Then we have pre-existing medical conditions. I talked about this last week. This is really, really important. And in Allianz, you have to have a insurance policy in place within 14 days of your initial purchase of your trip. So say you booked a cruise and you put your down payment of $25 on the cruise. Within 14 days of doing that, in order to have your pre-existing medical condition covered, you need to make your deposit of that $25, and you need to go on and purchase your travel insurance. Now, if you're adding your air later or decide you're going to add a hotel later, you can always add those things into your policy, but you want to make sure you get a policy after you make that initial payment of any amount towards your trip, because after that, your pre-existing medical condition will not be covered. So let's say you went on a trip and you have heart issues, and you go on your trip and life is good, and then all of a sudden you have a heart attack, or something happens with your medicine and you have a heart issue, and you need to be extradited to a hospital. That will not be covered if you did not buy your insurance policy in a timely manner. So you can say, well, I have insurance here, I have my own personal insurance. That works when you're in the United States. But if you're traveling and you're out of the country, one, does your medical insurance cover you out of the country? Because you don't know where they're going to take you. They're going to take you to the closest hospital to make sure you get treatment, right? And that's what you want. If you have a heart issue or having a heart attack, I don't want to go 3 hours to my contracted hospital. I want to get to the closest hospital because that is the hospital that's going to be able to save my life. I don't have 3 hours of time to get to a different hospital. So it's really important, again, and this is key in any insurance that you're purchasing, find out what is the pre-existing medical condition date. Most policies, the standard is 14 days, meaning you put a deposit down, within 14 days, you need to get an insurance policy. You can purchase your insurance policy through Norwegian Cruises. Carnival sells it. You can opt to get Allianz, or you can opt to get Travel Guard, or you can go with whatever policy is covered under your vendor's policies. But you want to make sure, if you know that you have any type of pre-existing conditions like epilepsy, heart issues, cancer, any type of lifelong or long-term pre-existing medical conditions, make sure you get an insurance policy in place, because things like medical extradition, medical treatment will be covered, and you don't have to worry about, the extra stress of how are you going to pay for this. Because when you're in a foreign country, they don't give you medical treatment on credit. If they treat you, they expect to be paid immediately, or they get authorization to make sure that some insurance carrier is going to be paying them immediately. So that is very key with the pre-existing conditions. Now, on the policy purchase date, you insure the full non-refundable cost of the trip with us. So it's saying that this includes trip arrangements that will become non-refundable or subject to cancellation penalties between the policy date and the departure date. So again, you want to make sure you're doing that within 14 days. Also, to purchase this policy, you have to be a U.S. resident, and you have to be medically able to travel on the day that you purchase the plan. So if you have stage 4 cancer and they tell you you're not going to make it for 3 months, and you purchase this policy and you get out there and go to Paris for your last hurrah, and unfortunately while you're there you have a really hard medical setback, you have already broken the terms of this contract, because it says you had to be medically able to travel on the day that you purchased the plan. So these are some of those key factors and components that have to be abided by in order for this to be a valid policy. So now we're going to go back and we are going to look at single trips under a basic policy. And the basic policy protects both international and domestic travelers, and it's an economical option for benefits for emergency medical care. The coverage for existing medical conditions is available. One-trip basic policies include crucial benefits for trip cancellation, trip interruption, trip delays, and lost or stolen baggage. Now, all of these benefits are one per insured unless otherwise notified. So what we see here is this one has trip cancellation for up to $10,000, which is less. Then we have trip interruption for $10,000. We have emergency medical that is $10,000. Emergency medical transportation, this one is half. It's 50,000 compared to the 100,000 that was listed in the other policy, which I think is still pretty good. Your baggage loss claim, $500 flat. Baggage delay, $200 flat. There's not any per day on that. Travel delays, $300 capped. That's your daily limit of $150 per day. You do have the 24-hour hotline assistance. It's multilingual again. Pre-existing medical conditions, again, this applies. And the same number of days applies. It has to be 14 days from the time you put money onto your trip. You have to be a US citizen and you have to be medically able to travel on the day that you purchase the plan. Now you'll notice bells and whistles are missing from this, right? This is our basic plan. This is the basic plan. So that's not to be confused with our first policy, which was the prime plan. That was our basic. So now let's take a look at Premier. And I'm going to take a swallow, excuse me. Okay, now with our Premier plan, if you're planning on an incredible family vacation, you most certainly need travel insurance benefits to match that, right? If you're going on a trip of a lifetime, you want to make sure you have insurance because we have no control over things. Life is just a roller coaster, and you always want to make sure that you're protecting your vacation investment. And that's how you want to sell this to your clients. Buying travel protection is protecting your investment in your vacation. And a lot of people don't see the value in that. And you do want to give them real life scenarios because when you're spending, say, $20,000 on a family vacation, something as simple as travel delays from one airport to another airport can mean that you're now paying for a day at a hotel that you never got to stay in. You're waiting around in the airport and it's hot and you don't have a meal and you don't have a room. And so these are the things we want to avoid, and that's what travel insurance can help you do. And so this one trip Premier doubles most of the prime plan. Now that prime plan was pretty sweet, right? This one is going to double just about every benefit. It has up to $50,000 in emergency medical benefits. That's just your medical. Now, for your emergency transportation benefit, it goes up to $1 million. That's phenomenal. This also covers children under the age of 17 that are covered when they're traveling with a parent or a grandparent. So this is ideal for if you're taking a family trip. The One Trip Premier now includes more covered reasons for trip cancellation, as well as trip interruption. And it gives you a little bit more for your baggage delays. No receipts are required. And it also says, please note that One Trip Premier is designed for trips up to 180 days with an additional charge of $5 each day over 30 days. So this is for that family that's deciding that they're going to go through Europe for the summer or that they are going to go on an extended holiday. Now, their trip cancellation is covered up to $100,000, which is phenomenal. It also includes hurricane warnings as a covered reason. And that's great because we don't get that a lot as well. Now, your trip interruption is covered up to $150,000, and it reimburses you for unused, non-refundable portion of your trip and for increased transportation costs that it takes for you to return home due to a covered reason. Your medical is covered up to $50,000. There's a $750 maximum for all covered dental benefits, so that did not change, but this is per insured person. The emergency medical transportation is up to $1 million. And again, this is per insured person. Baggage loss. Now, this is looking a little better. $2,000 covers loss, damage, or theft of baggage and personal effects. And this benefit is a benefit per insured, including those children who are under the age of 17. Now, for baggage delays, that is a $600 benefit. It reimburses the reasonable additional purchase of essential items during your trip, as long as the items are missing for longer than 12 hours. Now, receipts for emergency purchases are required, or again, you can do those smart benefits where you can opt out of this normal process and you'll get an inconvenience payment of $100 after a covered bag delay with no receipts required. Most people will wait it out and go for their $600 versus $100. Then we have travel delays. Now, this is $1,600. This reimburses you up to $200 a day for additional travel and lost prepaid expenses if your trip is delayed for 3 or more hours. 3 or more hours, right? That's not bad, but for 3 or more hours, it's going to give you $200 per day per person. So that's a pretty great thing. That could certainly put you up in a hotel and make sure that you all can have some food and feel like you've been accommodated and compensated appropriately. The smart benefits apply here again, $100 per person per day. You can opt out of those other things without providing receipts. They'll give you immediate money. Now, if there are four of you, you and your husband or your spouse and two children, you get $400. You can get a hotel for the night. You can get yourself some dinner. Everybody can shower, shampoo, and shine, and you can be ready to go as soon as your flight's been rescheduled. Now, change fees. If you need to change or do any type of changes, provide your reimbursement fees to change the dates on your airline ticket for a covered reason. There was a delay, there was a storm, um, they, they needed to do maintenance on the plane. You get $500 for that, and that is per insured person. And when you file this claim, it does not stop you from accepting a certificate. If the airlines is going to give you one for the delay, you can actually take both. Loyalty program redeposit fee is still $500 per person, which we appreciate. You'll get your points put back in your frequent flyers. 24-hour hotline assistance is available. Still, it's multilingual, and they'll help you with all kinds of emergencies, your local medical, legal, as well as notifying people back at home, and helps you with your missed connection, lost or stolen travel documents, and anything else they can help you with. And this one also includes concierge services to find out what time does the Louvre open, what time is the best time to have dinner. They will make you reservations at the Eiffel Tower, and they will help you with tea times for you to go and golf. And then again, this is an option that you would have to add rental car damage protection. It's still $9 a day if you opt to add that. Pre-existing medical conditions, it still applies. 14 days from the time that you put down a deposit. You have to be a U.S. citizen, and you had to medically be able to travel on the date that you purchased this plan. So this is the overview of Allianz travel protection, but now I'm going to open it up and we can talk about coronavirus, and if anybody has any specific questions regarding that, let's talk about it now. Any questions or even questions on what I reviewed today? Feel free to unmute your lines. Nobody has any questions for me? Or anybody typing in the chat box? Let's see. Thank you, Natasha. No questions?
Hi, Pam. This is
Hi.
Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I'm trying to think about asking this last week. Are we able to use these insurances for cruises also
Yes.
instead of the one that they offer?
Yes, you do not have to feel obligated to use the insurance provided by your cruise line. And most of the time, I don't. And I'll tell you why. When I book my cruise, I automatically go, and that's one more policy I forgot to cover, so we'll do that. I automatically price out Travel Guard or Allianz. And I do that because when you get something from your cruise liner, if you're not ordering your flights through them or doing your hotel booking through them, you have to call them back, and sometimes they add additional charges over what you've already paid for your travel insurance. I don't like that. So I always start outside and call Travel Guard, which is my primary insurance carrier, and then I'll do Allianz. and kind of check and see what the pricing is on each, and depends on my client and what I think they need. I will base my insurance choice on that and what I'm offering them. That makes sense?
So you've already done the comparison.
As soon as I book the cruise, because I need to know what the value of the cruise is, I automatically, next step that I do is I find out how much the insurance would be through Travel Guard or Allianz. If we're doing everything through the cabin and their hotel, like pre and post, I've only done one cruise like that, and I knew I was going to be doing that. Then I didn't have to worry about it. We just took the insurance with them because they were doing everything. But when I know that people are booking their flights later, or if I know that people are going to be staying at a hotel that's not the hotel that's preferred by the cruise line, I automatically just do an outside insurance and I price it out. And I'll go, I know the price that I just got quoted for the cruise was $2,200 per person. And I go, okay, that's great. And then I figure a hotel room is going to be another $250. And then I'll go, is there anything else that we might do? But I'll just cap it and go, this is our current value, and this is what I need to be looking for on a policy. And then I'll get them a quote based on that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. What I did forget to review, and we're going to do that now, is the annual trip. How many of you know that you can do an annual trip protection insurance? You guys are quiet, and I'm going to assume that most of you don't know that. I've been selling insurance for many years.
Never heard.
Yes, you can. And I do this frequently for my clients that I know do a lot of business travel, where we'll buy an annual plan. Travel Guard has one for $249, and it just basically covers, when you're traveling to and from, it'll make sure that if you have any delays, that they will compensate you for those delays so you don't wind up stuck somewhere and can't even eat a meal. But they have different levels of that through Allianz, and so we'll look at these really quickly. I'm going to do executive because I think that's the more important one, and then of course Premier. And so you can actually purchase a policy, and it's mostly for non-international trips, so it's domestic, which is fine because the assumption is that you're doing business travel, and that's going to be from state to state, right? That's the general assumption. All benefits that are provided are per insured unless otherwise noted. All benefits are per trip except for trip cancellation and trip interruption, which are per insurance plan, which is awesome. So you buy this policy for the year, and if any cancellations or any interruptions come up, it's all covered under the 1-year plan. Now, if trips are longer than 45 days, they're excluded from coverage. So say you're going to go back home and go and caretake for a parent, and you're going to fly to Jackson, Mississippi, but you're going to stay there for like 45 days is a month and a half, just to kind of check on things and close some things up with a family estate or whatever, that would not be covered. That's going to be your cutoff point is 45 days. But you get trip cancellation. It's 5,000, 7,500, or either 10,000. You have a choice of what you're buying. So once you got to the point that you wanted to book it, you would decide what's the value of your trip cancellation that you want. This benefit is per insured per year. So once you hit the cap on this, it no longer is in effect, and you would need to purchase an additional policy. But I mean, think about it. Even if you're traveling frequently, how many delayed flights do you get? Now, if you're constantly traveling a delayed route, it will probably be beneficial for you to get it per occurrence. And the assumption would be that your job is paying for it anyway, then I would go per occurrence. But if you're like a small business owner like we are, and you're traveling for regionals like I tend to do to go back and forth to Los Angeles, then it's beneficial to me to do this. Travel trip interruption, again, same values, 5,000, 7,500, 10,000. Your emergency medical will cap out at $50,000 for the year. This is, per insured per trip. This is, so it's the same thing that you would have gotten in a regular policy. Now, your emergency medical transportation is $250,000. That is per insured per person and per trip. Your baggage loss would be $1,000 benefit. And again, this would be per insured per trip. And why do you think they've done this? On an executive type travel, you're traveling to and from work, right? Or for work. It's really important that you would have your bags. And so they're going to assume that you're going to pay for your stuff and they're just going to reimburse you the $1,000 because you need your stuff. The same thing with a baggage delay. It's $1,000. And that's if they can't locate your things within 24 hours, which is why we see lots of garment bags with executives on planes because they're like, I got to have my suit. You can lose everything else in my bag, but I got my dress shoes on and I need to have a suit because I can't go to my appointment without those two things. You can go buy toiletries, you can go buy socks, you can even go buy new underwear. But if you are missing your suit, that could be a problem. You don't want to have to show up wearing Target jeans and a sweatshirt because the stores don't open till 10 and your appointment is at 9. Let's look at travel delays. It's $1,600. Now there's a daily limit on this of $200. And they do this again just so people can, go to a hotel. But if you're doing business travel, pretty much you would stick that on your business card. Rental car damage and theft coverage. This is really important. It's $45,000, up to $45,000 for all insureds per trip. Because people who travel for business will go to the airport, they quickly pick up a car, they go downtown, they go to their office or wherever they have their meeting. They might have their clothes still in the trunk of the car while they're upstairs doing a presentation with a laptop, or they might have their laptop in the car in the trunk while they're doing whatever. And I know in San Francisco, there's just been this horrible rash of car break-ins, and this would make sure that the car coverage for damages would be compensated as well as what was removed from the car. Then we have business equipment coverage. Now, this is benefits for a reasonable replacement of business equipment that's been lost, stolen, or damaged or delayed by your common carrier. So if you checked something under, like say your banners, and you checked it under the flight, under the plane, and it got damaged, those banners, pop-up banners can be like up to $500. That's expensive. So business equipment, that could be covered, and that's a per insured per trip thing. Business equipment rental coverage, so renting equipment for business equipment that was lost, stolen, or damaged, you can have up to $1,000 for that. Change fee coverage, if you need to change your airplane ticket, again, that's $500 per insured per trip. Accidental travel accident coverage provides cash payment for covered losses due to death or loss of limbs or sight as a result of a covered travel accident. So if your plane were to crash, you actually get the benefit of a $50,000 policy that would go to your loved ones. And that is not covered in the other policies. Loyalty program, of course, if you had something happen in your frequent flyer miles, did not get credited, or they took the points because you missed a flight, you can get that back through this benefit. The 24-hour hotline is available, again, multilingual. They will help with legal as well as medical and notifying your home, as well as tracing down lost documents or a driver's license. Concierge services, again, they're happy to assist you with getting around and finding things to do in your business or the place where you're going for business. And pre-existing medical conditions, again, you have to notify them and get a policy in place. Now, this is annual, so the second you buy your first ticket, at any time during that year, because it's a calendar year, you have 14 days to secure this insurance policy. So that is all of that. Did anybody have any questions? And I can't see chats yet, so.
Hello, Miss Pam. This is LaBeast in San Francisco. How you
Hey,
doing
Miss
this evening?
LaBeast.
Hi, I have two questions. I'm looking online. The first one is I'm looking online. Where do you go to do, or is there a specific training that we can do, like to be certified, like
Allianz
we
has
do
a
our vendors
training.
and suppliers?
Allianz has a training. It's through Travel Agent. I want to say Travel Agent Universe.
Okay, because I'm looking at three different things on the well, first on the bottom of the screen is saying travel insurance 101, and then on the top of the screen on the left-hand side on the right-hand side, it says travel agent.
Yes, that's
Like
the
to
travel
sign up
agent
for an
portal.
account. Yes. So
That's the
I wasn't
portal.
sure
So
if,
again, you would do the
to,
training. I'm telling you where to go. It would be on the travel agent universe. Now, travel
okay,
agent 101 down here at the bottom, I believe it's just kind of giving you information about travel, but you can sign up without doing a training, but I don't personally recommend that. I think it's important
okay,
that people take the training because then you don't know what you're selling.
okay. Oh, okay. So I'll just go to travel agent universe. And my second question is, does this insurance cover not only the cruises and the cars and the flights, but like hotels, condos,
Yes.
cabins, etc.?
It's based on the value of what you've purchased.
Okay. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
No worries. And thanks for joining me.
Oh, no problem.
Anyone else have any questions? We've run over. We're over what we normally do, but I appreciate you all being here. I forgot to mention that last policy, and that was the one I really wanted to highlight was the annual policy, since a lot of people don't tend to sell those. No questions? No
Oh,
comments?
sorry. And how long is the annual?
The annual is 1 year,
Like for
1
months? Like
calendar
what
year.
is the
So
time
if I
frame?
bought it today, it would be 1 calendar year from today.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And again, once you get that first item that you're purchasing, so say I bought an airplane ticket today and I purchased an annual policy, I need to get an annual policy within 14 days of paying for something, or it won't be covered. I think I saw a comment down here. Y'all can open your lines because I think when I'm doing this, you can see it on the screen when it's taping. No problem. Thank you. All right, everybody. Well, I've gone like 20 something minutes over the time we normally do, but I truly appreciate you all being here. And we're going to go on and close this out. It is recorded. I'm going to go on and download it tonight and get both of those up on my YouTube page. So you should be able to watch them by the morning. I appreciate you all being on. And I'm just double checking because I got a flash to make sure. Thank you, Denise. Wanted to make sure that wasn't a question. And this webinar is officially over. Thank you for being with me, and I will see you all next Monday at 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Have a great week, everyone.